Hi everyone, welcome to my review of Victor Fleming's The Wizard of Oz from 1939. So yes, here we are, and marking the end here of this kind of few weeks I've had rewatching a lot of my favourite films. The Wizard of Oz. This is the final film really to film. Of course, a review of that it marks this kind of event that I've been taking part in here on YouTube. And yes, here it is on Blu-ray, and today actually marks the 80th anniversary. So I didn't plan that, but yeah, it's kind of cool that it ended up like that as well. It's kind of an interesting thing there. Today's Sunday the 25th. When filming this review, of course, and there's more reviews going to be coming before this. I've got already filmed, but here we are, and just a fitting way to end this kind of celebration I've been having. And yes, just this film, of course, it is certainly at times, let's face it, one of the most popular films. It's a film that I'm sure as a kid, you get shown this, and you kind of, well, I think most people love this film. Yes, memories of this, of course, seeing it quite a lot of times, and yeah, just rewatching this and actually finding just even more powerful, actually. And actually, as I've gotten older, this film, yeah, it truly is one of the finest films ever made. I'll just say that now. Of course, it is, one of the films I'm reviewing, for this event. So yeah, it is one of my favourites. And how high, on my list, we'll get to, but wow, extremely high. This film is just, I think along with Singing in the Rain, which is behind me there, this really is the best musical, really, non-animated musical, we'll say that. It just really, along with Singing in the Rain, I can't really actually, decide what I prefer. Literally very close, among my favourites. These two for me are the pinnacles, really, of musicals, and just in terms of magic, movie magic, and just everything, that cinema is, not just the musical. I think these are just two magnum opuses. They are absolutely wonderful works, and this, of course, is a fantasy film, as we know, and it's a highly popular film, and it's a film that I've seen many times, of course, and yeah, it's just I think this film is a perfect film, and it's just such a magical film, a real pure representation of fantasy, I feel, in cinema, and literally very few films I think are more of a pure representation of the genre, what makes fantasy so great. And I think the sets, the very clear at times sets, I think add to that experience. Personally, I know I certainly feel this way. I actually enjoy that more. The fact that it is sets and stuff. It's so otherworldly, this film, and it's kind of just throughout its themes, of course, very true, honest themes it portrays, and very relatable themes. I think combine that and everything to the way it's just this fantastical otherworldly feel. It's kind of a perfect blend of realism and fantasy in cinema. It's one of those films, and it just from the opening scenes, what a perfect film. And the opening act, before they even get to Oz, of course, is absolutely legendary, and just one of the most wondrous opening acts in a film I've ever seen. This for me is magical, and it's just kind of perfect storytelling here. I think at times very underrated in terms of just how perfect this is in terms of everything here. The script, the way that the film moves, the narrative, the momentum to the next scene, between the different scenes, and of course these lyrics to the actual songs themselves. I think the way it actually just drives the story, and it kind of moves you within the actual lyrics themselves, and how it's kind of saying something that's really so powerful. Of course, I'm not going to get into the plot, outline the plot, because we all know. But yeah, no, this is a spoilers review if you've not seen the film. But of course, yes. Now that's a kind of, I've said it's a spoilers review. We don't need to outline the plot too much, but we will be kind of glossing over it. But of course, Dorothy Gale, of course, played by Judy Garland, which for me, it's one of the best performances I've ever seen, and one of the best characters really in a film. And yes, just even when Dorothy is kind of on the farm and stuff, so wonderful. Just a magic feel here, classic cinema. This feeling from films like this. It's just you don't get them anymore. Such a shame. But yes, Victor Fleming, of course, as well, directing that film behind me, Gone with the Wind, and not sure if I'll review that film, but maybe if with some requests in the comments, you actually want me to see, review that film, then possibly I'll consider it. But that's a real, particularly special film that I maybe don't want to review. Yeah, I do prefer it to this even. But Victor Fleming, clearly just one of the great directors, and this film, it's just a perfect creation, and I think everything about this film, it's just so powerful. I feel magical. It's very simple themes that you can relate to, and just the way the story is told is flawless in my opinion. You can kind of look to this more than most films to just see how to tell a story, with ease. Kind of get across themes very clearly. But it's such a kind of a film that's so much put into this. The production is one of the best. The sets and everything absolutely mind blowing. They really are. The creativity into this is such an imaginative film. I think just the pure, the energy and the imagination put into this. The colors, for example, in the sets and stuff. Wow, this is just genius stuff here, and of course, the opening act is just so wonderful. We've got, of course, for me, one of the best moments in cinema, which is, of course, Over the Rainbow, and that's a moment that really it drives the film really, and it's just brings me to tears. That moment, just everything about that, the way it's framed, of course. Judy Garland's performance there, of course, and the singing and the way a bit within the song. Maybe you've seen it, you pick up on the bit where it looks to the sky and you see the kind of the sun coming through there, and it's just a beautiful moment within the context of the song. But in its own right, it's just a very kind of spiritual moment actually, and that whole moment is just one of the magic scenes for me in cinema, and then you've not even got to Oz, as I say, and then of course the twister and everything, which is just a genius kind of scene there, and of course, then of course she steps out of the house into Oz and Munchkin Land, and wow, when she steps out of the door and you see Munchkin Land, and you see these colours, it's one of the greatest moments in cinema for me, and just the whole shot as well. It just reveals slowly this wondrous kind of location. There's rarely been moments in cinema that just that as beautiful as that, really, as wonderful and magical. This film truly is magical from start to finish. It's of course good versus evil, but it's a real one of the most purely uplifting films. And it's just such a joyous event. This everything about the film, including the colours, of course. They pop. The colours are absolutely mind blowing in this film. The set there, that is one of the great moments, as I say. And it takes place, around 15 minutes or so. You've got these different songs, and I think it's just one of the great sequences in cinema. This whole constant, kind of masterful songs, just energy, just the way it's choreographed, I think, and wow, just the way that it kind of sets off the main kind of narrative, and how Dorothy, of course, wants to get home to Kansas, and she's told. By the Witch of the North, in order to get home, maybe they can help her, the wizard, of course, and yes, she heads off with Toto, of course, and I love Toto. Great character, the dog, of course, and it's just this whole kind of the way that she's with her dog the whole film, it's so amazing. It's so feel good and just uplifting, I feel, even that, that fact there. But of course, just that moment as well when just after this whole massive kind of sequence, we're off to see the wizard, the first kind of rendition of this, and it's just one of the encompassing everything here, one of the very finest opening kind of 30 or so minutes to a film. This opening act is just absolutely flawless, and then of course you've not even met her friends of the film, the Scarecrow, the the Tin Man, and the Cowardly Lion. You know, some of the greatest characters for me in film. You know, there's a real simplicity, of course, but it's so perfectly executed. And you know, the warmth and the charm to this. You know, the whole team up. It's so perfect for me, and I think it just always uplifts me. It makes me just feel amazing. And of course, you've got the all the different kind of motivations of the characters who, you know, just together they're so great, and individually, you know, they're so distinct. Another reason why it's just so perfect in its storytelling. These characters are so kind of stand out. They all have a motivation. They want something. Of course, their desires. The Tin Man, of course, wants a heart, and yes, the brain, of course, for the Scarecrow, and yes, courage for the Lion, who, of course, you know, Cowardly Lion, of course, and yes, you've just got this whole team up of, you know, some of the greatest characters in film for me. And then, of course, I just love how it progresses. You know, when they gradually team up and they have the different, you know, kind of tellings of the song, renditions, you know, of the We're Off to See the Wizard. I love this. I love it so much, and just when they do arrive, it's just so amazing as well. You know, it's perfect from start to finish, in my opinion, in this film. And just, you know, it's just of course the Wicked Witch. I think it's one of the most enjoyable villains, you know, in a film. Just so amazing. You know, it's really funny film, this as well. You know, it's hilarious in a lot of the characters, of course, and the script. You know, the dialogue is just so witty at times, and charming, and even the villain, of course, very comical at times. And I love to think about the film. You know, I think it's just absolutely flawless. Even the final act is just, wow, the way this film comes together, you know, and what it says, you know, about its themes and stuff, and the whole journey, you know, of these characters and how they learn things, you know, the life lessons. It's so perfect for me, and it's just, yes, absolutely, no doubt for me, one of the absolute finest films in the history of cinema. And you know, all the performances, as I've said, you know, absolutely amazing in this film. You know, it's just so much energy in these performances, and you know, the likability. Of course, you've got Ray Bolger, you've got Jack Haley, Bert Lahr. You know, so many great performances in the film, and just, you know, Frank Morgan as well. And, you know, Dorothy herself, Dorothy Gale, is just, you know, as I've said, you know, one of the best protagonists. I think just her determination, of course, you know, being one of the main themes of the film, and how, you know, you about trying hard and stuff, and keeping you know, kind of the spirit. She's just one of the best characters, and of course, like, the way she helps people out. You know, she's so kind of caring in the film. You know, all of this, and just, you know, likable in her own right. I think just absolutely one of my very favourite characters in a film, and certainly protagonists. Just so charming. You know, the kind of the whole friendship. You know, one of the best things, you know, the film, of course, being the theme of friendship. You know, it's just truly warm. You know, this and kind of just makes you feel amazing. I feel, and of course, Dorothy, just absolutely brilliant. You know, flawless performance here by Judy Garland. You know, so perfect, the casting, and yeah, just every trait, you know, of all the different characters, but especially Dorothy, for me, is just so perfectly realised, and the performance, seriously, you know, absolutely flawless for me. You know, truly a magical, wonderful performance, and the character of Dorothy just being, you know, rightfully, you know, kind of praised as one of the best in film. I certainly agree with that, and yeah, just all of these characters together, especially, you know, just so amazing, and just so perfectly written, you know. And you know, the way that the characters all team up gradually and together at the end, you know, good versus evil, just could not be better. Really, just a perfect cast of characters. So perfect, of course. And the genius thing, you know, as we know, the twist, of course, being it's all a dream, and I think it's really the best kind of you know, use of that. You know, it's used quite a lot in films, you know, over the years and stuff, but. And some, you know, are just very cheap. I feel, and there's a very cheap, you know, way to kind of end a film a lot of the time. But this, I think, you know, it really is just perfect. And how the characters, of course, the actors play the two different characters. You know, most of the characters there, of course, are different characters in the dream, but they're also in, of course, the scenes in Kansas. And I think the way that's brought together at the end, it's just so genius. As a kid, I didn't really, obviously, like the first time you see this as a kid and stuff, it's just an amazing moment because maybe you don't quite know that they are, and then when it does kind of come through at the end, it's just such a genius thing. This, and I just love the way it's such a warm ending. This, and of course, Dorothy, saying "There's no place like home." It's just so powerful, that line, and I think Gone with the Wind does, it was one of the main themes, of course, of that film too. So wonderful, and this is just one of these films that just, kind of showing the value of home, wherever it is, whatever it means. I think because, the Cowardly Lion, of course, and the Tin Man and stuff, they find their home, within the dream and stuff, and with Dorothy as well. It's not just, it's kind of just wherever it is kind of thing. I think that's one of the genius things, and why it's truly powerful, and the kind of comfort, feeling of home, and it really is beautiful in the way it's done, and I think just the lessons that the characters learn across this, and how Dorothy learns all these these things, and it's so beautiful. And of course you've got this whole the actual world within the dream and stuff. This whole fantasy world is just, it's one of the very best in film, I feel. Just the way it's kind of, it's very simple at times, but it's just simplicity perfected in my eyes, and just the whole kind of beauty of this land, and the charm, and just the otherworldly feeling it has. I think, as I said, the sets really add to that. It's just the culmination of everything that makes cinema great. Just within this film, I feel, and it really is one of the very pinnacles for me. In cinema, I think, just in how to bring this wonderful, as I say, pure fantasy world to the screen, to relate that to kind of real life, but I love how it doesn't look necessarily like real life. It just adds this fantastical feel, this, of course, dreamlike effect. It is a dream, but I think it's just the perfect mesh of different the different kind of the two, realism and fantasy, and just the way it's done, it really is just genius in my eyes, and so magical and heartwarming. And I think Judy Garland, as I say, is so good in this film. It's just absolutely wonderful performance, and just all these characters, the memorable characters throughout the film. Just the villain, of course, being one of the most iconic. Of course, Margaret Hamilton, playing the witch, the main villain here, and she's just so kind of course, she is, a great villain, but she's also very comical, and it's just so great. And the way that she, of course, wants to take the dog. Toto is something that kind of makes you hate her and stuff, and want her to go against her, and root for, of course, Dorothy, and because it's like friendship, her and the dog together. Toto, that's so kind of felt from the beginning, and of course you don't want anything to happen to the dog and stuff. And yeah, it's something that drives the film, in places as well, and it's just everything in this film is just so enjoyable, so vivid. This creation, and it's so full of wonder. This is just everything that makes a film, and it's just, it really it really elevates, I feel, spiritually and everything. Just definitely an out of body experience. I feel this film, and just, as I say, the use of colours, the overall cinematography is absolutely stunning, and just the way, as well, the opening is so perfectly constructed, and the way it sets up the film, the way it kind of links the two different worlds, and it makes the kind of the dream so kind of meaningful. It's not just, as I say, a gimmick. The way it ends, it's not like many films that clearly do this. I can name so many that kind of do this whole, it's just a dream kind of ending. I've seen many films like this, but this is the one that really, especially, just perfects that, and I think it's just a perfect way to end this film. And the way it brings, as I say, it links the characters, and the fact that they're just kind of her, of course, in her mind and stuff, and the way it's kind of based off of characters that she knows, you know, in this kind of farm, and it's just, I think it's just so wonderful. But you know, these scenes early on when she of course goes, you know, Frank Morgan is, you know, in that carriage as well, and she meets him and stuff, and he kind of makes her realise she has to go home and stuff, and you know, this whole, one of the main themes is this feeling of home and how kind of, you know, how valuable it is, and you know, wherever it is, you know, kind of thing. It's just something that's truly you know, universal. You know, it's just so relatable, just like everything in the film. You know, truly something I can get so invested in, and you know, these messages, you know, these lessons, of course, that Dorothy and all the characters learn. You know, so wonderful to see and take part in. You know, it's a real you know, such an immersive experience, this, and I think it's just so wonderful in the way that, you know, this whole world is portrayed and how it is, you know, a dream, you know, but it's part of, it's something, you know, she takes from the dream. You know, it's not like it's just a gimmick at all. It's just so wonderful in you know, in the way this is used, and how, you know, at the end, you know, her realization, you know, of many you know, different things of importance, and just a really, just the whole ending scene, you know, when all the characters are there. What a warm ending, you know, it doesn't get more kind of warm than that, you know. I think just truly magical film. I don't need to get into the film too much more. I think, you know, it's a very it's a film that I can't say too much about. You know, I just absolutely love. It's one of my very favourite films, and you know, there's a real, of course, simplicity to the film, you know, and how to describe it and stuff. So yeah, I can't talk, you know, for an hour and stuff, or I don't really want to. I think it's just best to kind of leave it to the experience. And I think, you know, most people, I guess, you know, do love the film, so we can all kind of, you know, understand that it's just it's such a pure film. You know, it really means so much to me personally, and yeah, just you know, such an adventure as well. I love the way it progresses. You know, that wonderful kind of, you know, such a brilliant you know, kind of big sequence, you know, when she, you know, of course, arrives in, you know, Munchkinland, and you know, the whole way it kind of progresses, and you know, she goes in, you know, in the circle and stuff, and then she goes off. It's just, it's such a, you know, how it's constructed, and you know, how the world is you know, connected. I feel, you know, it really is, through the sets and stuff. Just genius, you know, in the way it's choreographed, you know, and the whole, all the different you know, kind of the different themes in the film as well. As I say, just so felt, and it's truly so emotional, I feel, in the end. Really is. And there's moments, of course, over the rainbow. Of course, you've got you know, the actual arrival into Munchkinland and going to Oz. You know, it's so, all these moments are some of the, you know, very most magical moments, I feel, in cinema. And yes, you know, taking everything into account, there is no doubt for me that this is a magnum opus. One of the very best films I've ever seen personally, and you know, I don't quite think it's the best film from the year 1939, which of course I guess most people would agree is one of the best years in film. I certainly would. No, but it is for me the second best film, you know, of that year, and I think it's a true magnum opus, this one. And yes, Victor Fleming just directs it to perfection. Everything, and you know, everyone involved, and all the sets and everything, the music, you know, the score and the songs, absolutely flawless. And yes, of course, it gets my highest rating of 100% plus. Tier S. This film is just you know, a miracle. It's a dream film, a dream come true. You know, on the screen here, this, you know, this is, you know, this is cinema. You know, it really is just you know, this is what cinema is, really, dreams. You know, and how this can kind of bring this wonderful kind of fairy tale story, you know, to this, and how it can immerse you in this fantastical world, but also kind of these themes that you can kind of be moved by. You know, there's things that you can, you know, connect, you know, to the real world, but also just, it's not something. It's something purely escapist as well, I feel, just in the way that it is so far away, and kind of just so fantastical and so otherworldly, and you know, just so kind of strange at times as well. And I love to think about the film. I really do. And yes, the characters, as I say, the whole kind of, the whole narrative, the whole journey, you know, them together is so warm and you know, enjoyable. And then of course the ending, just a perfect ending. Even the credits to this film is just so amazing with the music and stuff. And yes, the music to the film, just the songs, every single song is amazing. We all know that, and especially Over the Rainbow and the way that's used in the film. The score, it's just absolutely stunning, sublime, and yes, just really, really elevates this film. It's such a magical experience, of course. Yes, The Wizard of Oz, it's one of my very, very favourite films. Easily top 50, that's all I'll say. Wait until my list. But yeah, very, very, very high in my top 50. And as I say, very close, very much on the level to Singing in the Rain for my favourite non-animated musical. So yeah, that's all I'll say there. But I think this film, is just, as a fantasy film, as a musical, as a family film, an adventure, as a classic, kind of mythic, fairy tale film. I think absolutely, cinematic perfection in my eyes. Very, very close to being, kind of top 10 material here. We're talking, of all time. I think it's just absolutely flawless. I can understand if it's people's favourite, because it's certainly one of my very, very favourite films, and I think it just offers so much. Very, very short film. It's always sad when it's over. But yeah, I just love this film so much. And it's always sad though, leaving the characters and stuff, and how there's kind of a sadness to the fact that it is a dream as well. It's like one of them things. Well, when you have a dream when you're a kid and stuff, and then you kind of, there's characters in your dream and stuff like this, and then you wake up and you can't return. But this is a film, of course, we can go back and watch it. So it's kind of bittersweet, but just the way that it ends, though, the way it kind of Dorothy has realised so many different things. It's so comforting and beautiful, really beautiful film. This is wonderful, and yes, The Wizard of Oz, truly cinematic perfection in my eyes. One of the most moving films, for me. One of the most purely, otherworldly experiences. It's just movie magic. I don't need to say much more. I do agree. It's one of the very, very finest films. It's of course one of the most popular films. So many times I've seen this, and yes, just such a wonderful film. Of course, and yes, just a great Blu-ray as well. Of course, enhancing the colours, especially. They really, really absolutely vivid as as you can get. Really, just stunning, and yes, just a wonderful film. It's epic as well. It's just adventurous, energetic, pure movie magic, in my opinion. A true work of art. This, and yes, just wonderful, really, really wonderful film. And everyone, thanks for watching. Of course, and leave your thoughts in the comments. And stuff, and your thoughts on the film, and just of course, as always, cinema. And yes, thanks for watching my review.